expressed during the program are solely that of Klodowski Real Estate, not WBEV or Good Karma Brands. Now we head to the Daily Dodge television studio at 100 Bill McCullum Way, Beaver Dam, and here is the ninja himself, Justin Wilski.
Well, thank you, Jeff, and this is Taking Care of Business with Klodowski Real Estate, and I've got Chris and Abby here with me today. Your guys' first debut on Daily Dodge TV, simulcasted with being on the radio. Are you scared at all?
I think the long pause. I think the long pause speaks to a little bit of nervousness for the first time. Yes,
Maybe a little bit.
We did both get ready today.
I saw you guys came in. I heard something about getting like hair ready and everything else, and checking outfits early in the morning. I appreciate it. I also got my hair done before today.
It looks great.
So thank you.
Looks great.
Thank you.
So good.
I want to welcome you guys again for coming on the show. We always love having you guys on. Again, I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions, probably a bunch of dumb questions. But let me start by asking, what's going on in the real estate world? Is there anything new, anything big, anything ground shaking? Like if they suddenly decided you can buy a house for peanuts, like what's happening out there?
Still waiting for that.
We wish for our buyers.
It would be nice, wouldn't it?
No, same market situation. I think when I looked last night, there were 16 active residential single families in the 53916 actively on the market.
Okay, which for a city this size, that feels awfully small.
It is awfully small.
Are we seeing that in like bigger communities too?
Correct. Yes, that
Yeah.
is. It is not specific just to Dodge County. You get down to, and I would say it's worse when you get down towards like get to Columbia and then to Dane. Like each one is a little bit tougher when making an offer.
Yeah.
Now, something I've been wondering, does the amenities of a city or the area you're looking in, does that grow or shrink the availability of housing? Like I think about, we had once talked about maybe building a house somewhere, up north or something. And then I looked at things I really wanted, like, well, I want to be on city water, city sewer. I wanted high-speed internet, but I also didn't want to be in the heart of the city, and I know it's starting to sound like one of those, TV shows for all my wants. But, in the grand scheme of things, it was like, boy, trying to find anything out there that fit all those criteria was really small. There might be a lot of houses available out there maybe that I was seeing, but nothing that came close to what I was looking for.
Definitely a factor. Like I have a couple right now that's moving here from Montana, and they have chosen the Beaver Dam area because they have kids involved in figure skating and hockey. And the husband works in Madison, is going to be working in Madison once they get here. But the price point of what you get in Madison versus here, he feels like the drive is more than worth it to where he needs to get to be in the Beaver Dam community, checking the boxes of what's available here, the ice arena for the figure skating and the hockey, and that's why they've chosen this area.
So those are some really nice draws for this area. That's sure. I'm sure the lake helps a lot
Yeah.
too, having that here. Are we seeing a lot of variation in that low end price and that high end price in our area, or is it kind of condensed? Are they pretty similar?
So of what's on the market, very few below like the 300 number, very few.
Oh, wow.
And when it does happen, Abby just listed a property Sunday night, 4
At like
bedroom.
9:30 p.m.
Yeah, 4 bedroom, 2 bath, 2-car garage, nice backyard close to the schools, at $240,000, and tremendous activity. And what did you just say? There's
Six offers.
6 offers.
This is the one that's on your guys' Facebook page
Yep, the
right
most
now.
recent one on the Facebook page.
Yep.
Correct.
Okay, and matter of fact, we're going to pop that up now so people can see your Facebook page. Why don't we take this as a moment to talk about how people can get a hold of you? Obviously, there's your Facebook page. That's an option, which is just Klodowski Real Estate on Facebook. Really easy to search for and find. If I can do it, anybody else can do it. You guys also have the website, correct?
Correct. We have our website. We also have an office line, 920-219-9212. And what we do is every third week rotate, when we're not in the office, who the calls go to. So like one week Abby will have the phone, one week I'll have the phone, one week Adam will have the phone. Or we all also have our own personal cell phone numbers that someone can contact us, call or text-wise directly.
I know you guys have said before that the chances of catching you guys in the office are pretty slim because you're usually out doing showings or, recruiting or whatever you guys got to do, to find houses and sell. That finding you in the office is not easy. So that calling option is...
Unless you're...
We're there from 7 to 8 a.m. every Saturday morning. We have an office meeting then. You can always stop.
Right.
If there's a black GMC there, it'll be one of the three of us.
Okay, all right.
But yeah, we're not in the office a lot.
Now, that being said, you guys also then have no problem meeting potential clients who are looking to sell or at their home, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Sellers definitely we would prefer if they're, unless they would be uncomfortable with the first meeting, to meet at their home so they can, Abby had one last night, so they can give us a tour of the home. We can, talk about ages of mechanicals, ages of the roof, and also make recommendations for if they decided. I just met with a couple on Sunday. They're not looking to sell till next year at this time.
Okay.
But they wanted a list of things now that they could do in the next year to make their home as sale ready as it possibly could. And then we also put together a market analysis for them to show how their house compares to recent sales. Obviously, the one being a year out, we'll revisit that again next year because the market changes quickly.
Right. Is it unusual that people reach out to you that far in advance?
Every now and then you get someone that, I know the last time we sold a house, it was early, maybe even late winter.
We meaning the house she lives in.
Oh, gotcha, yeah.
We started really towards the beginning of the year planning to sell late summer, early fall, just the little things.
I think there was an Excel spreadsheet involved.
There was an Excel spreadsheet. There definitely was.
Yeah.
From scrubbing the grout in the laundry room to just making it show perfect, which you do not have to do, but
Right.
yes, we did.
I could see as a realtor, you really want to push the
Yeah.
envelope to getting everything right. I will say the Excel thing, if you see my desktop computer, it's Excel spreadsheets everywhere. I love them. So that spoke to
Same.
me.
Can't relate. Can't
No?
relate.
No? Are you a post-it notes all over the place kind of person? Or
I absolutely am. I have so many. I just last week bought new, like little notebooks. I have 450, but I needed some new ones.
I feel like, not to get off topic, but I feel like that's a generational thing because I'm the same way. I use literally spreadsheets for everything. My kids will have crumpled up notes everywhere, post-it notes, notebooks that are filled with jotted down stuff. I don't know how they find anything. But somehow they do. Now, there was a topic we wanted to talk about a little bit today that you had brought up, which was buyer agency. And that obviously is, from my memory of conversations we've had, that's where, as a realtor, you're working for the buyer at that
Correct.
point. And that allows you certain provisions for what you can do for them.
Correct.
Can you explain that a little bit more? Explain kind of a buyer's agency to anybody who maybe hasn't heard that term before.
Well, so when you're a buyer's agent, you're representing the buyer and the buyer only. So that means you're writing an offer based on what they'd like to see, what they feel good about is important to us. And then as the process goes, so when you have an inspection or you have like a well water and septic test or an appraisal, you're negotiating for the buyer. So that means you're advising them on things, like even when you walk through, we're not inspectors by any means, but because we've been through a lot of houses and a lot of inspections, we'll point out like, this is something that probably will come up in inspection, like a broken window seal or knob and tube wiring or asbestos wrapped pipes or something. So those are things that we can just point out when we're walking through a house. And then once you're under contract, we represent you and negotiate with the other side for when you have an inspection, when you have your appraisal, all that good stuff.
Is there ever a time where somebody doesn't want to do a buyer's agency? Is that a possibility? It's not do a buyer's agency?
That's kind of why I wanted to touch on it because some people don't know. And when a buyer contacts us directly to say, hey, I'm interested in potentially buying a house, we start out with a buyer consultation. Because once you're in that house that like you get the warm fuzzy in your belly and it checks most of your stuff, there's so many other things you're focusing on. So we start with a buyer consultation, most of the time meeting at the office, sometimes a coffee shop or something like that, where we go over the details. Like Abby mentioned, when we go into a house with a buyer that we're representing, we point out what we call adverse facts. So, like if there was an asbestos wrap pipe, noteworthy, this is what I see and I suspect this is asbestos, because we have been through so many home inspections, you learn some things, but also clarifying we are not inspectors or contractors. Adverse facts are what they're called.
Right.
Whereas some people, like when you go to one of the nationwide websites that are home search sites and you hit contact agent, you are connected with an agent that has a firm that's paying for that click to go to them.
Right.
And it's not uncommon to be at a property, at an open house, for example, where there is a buyer first meeting an agent there to look at the house. So we see a lot of houses, a lot of properties that have offers that don't have home inspections when you don't have a buyer's agent, because otherwise the agent writing your offer is still working in the seller's best interest, not yours. That being said, you still have to be ethical and honest in your transactions. In meeting with a buyer ahead of time, we can kind of find out what they're looking for. So if we see something in delayed status or we have a listing coming up, we can give them a heads up about that. Like, this is going to be coming on the market. And then go through an offer. Like, okay, you can write an offer for the price, and we talk about some additional things that would benefit them to know, like an escalation clause. Like, a house is on the market for $200,000. There's a ton of activity, multiple offers, and you know it's going to sell above that $200,000 number. You can write an offer for $200,000, but say, I will top any other bona fide arm's length offer by $3,000 up to $225,000. It's kind of like the eBay max bid, if you're familiar with that. So if there's not another offer up to that number, likely you'd be accepted at your purchase price. But if there's something else, it brings your number up without overpaying for it. Meeting in advance, a lot of that can be overwhelming. To at least touch on it for the first time when you're just sitting down and talking versus when you're in the house, that like you're envisioning your furniture and where you're going to cook supper and the great backyard for the dog. And
they have three offers, and you know, like, and we are never saying you better decide right now, but there is a quickness to how everything
sense of urgency for everything.
Currently happening. So if when we meet with you ahead of time and you know all of this information, we don't have to give you all this information and you make your decision. You know, you already know, going in, you know what it. We also talk about costs, which I think, especially if you're a first-time home buyer, is wonderful, because if you're getting a home inspection, it costs $400. Well worth it, but to know within that first 15 days you're going to be writing an earnest money check and also paying your inspector, that you need to have that number of dollars available to you.
Right.
So that's not a surprise when you're like, okay, I love this house. Oh, wait, I didn't know about that.
Right. I know when we went through our process, because the home we're living in now was our first purchase. We had rented for many years. It was a great peace of mind, kind of knowing, like, okay, at this point, like you mentioned the ethical thing, like you always kind of question, like, who are they really working for? Well, now we really know you're working for us. And it actually led to us getting the house we got, because that was something they saw coming on the market. They knew it was about to hit that day. We were able to get in and see it right away.
That's huge.
And that moved the process along a lot faster. And, we felt more confident. And like you guys mentioned, fees and things were brought up ahead of time. Like, here, this is what's going to cost for an inspection.
That's awesome.
This is what's going to cost for, here's some things you might want to know about the market. We're in Waupun. They're like, radon's an issue if you have a closed basement. Something to think about if we're looking at those kind of homes. Stuff that we just scrolling through, your classic, homes.com kind of website would not have known.
Sure.
So
And we are beyond passionate about someone finding the home that fits their basic needs, but also that there's a little fuzzy in their belly, like they're excited about it. When someone's lost out on a few properties, like their offer hasn't been accepted, I've seen a couple of times where they're almost at the point of settling, like, oh, well, let's put an offer on this. We will never talk anyone into buying a house, but I have talked people out of putting an offer on a house. And there's one I can think of, like, they told me what they wanted that was really important to them, their top 3 priorities, and this only hit one of the 3. I still would have wrote the offer if they had said, I want you to write the offer, but it's like, okay, when I met with you, you told me this and this. I just want to make sure that you really want to proceed with this offer. And as they thought, they're like, yeah, you're right. This doesn't. It was more of a lateral move than what they wanted to go to.
Right. I want to go back and talk about something you guys had mentioned, which is the ability that you guys have even before the buyer's agreement is put into place, or the buyer's agency is put in place, that allows you to kind of point out some things that you may notice that might stand out to you. Has there ever been something you guys have pointed out that has been such a glaring thing that you're like, you are definitely going to want to get this looked at or fixed before you know?
Well, we are always recommending a home inspection. There's
Right.
never a time where we are saying you shouldn't get an inspection. There are times where people choose not to have an inspection, but we very clearly discuss the risk of that, all those things. But there are big things like knob and tube wiring is a big deal.
Right.
Financing, you can't get financing without that taken care of.
Right. And that's a big cost from my memory.
It depends. It depends, like, is it only in the basement or only in the attic still, or is it all the way through the plaster walls? Because that changes things, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. But also a thing that we talk about is kind of the quality of when you walk in, you can tell how cared for things are. So if there's like some shoddy DIY work throughout, it kind of lends itself to how things may be taken care of that we can't see.
Gotcha.
So it's just worth noting.
I think about one of the houses we had looked at. It didn't even trigger in our minds, but our realtor said, it's weird how there's no kitchen cabinets in the kitchen. It's open shelving everywhere, and there's not a lot on any of the shelves. And I thought, that is kind of odd, because they're still living in this house. So you would think, like, I think about my kitchen cabinets, and I'm glad we don't have clear glass doors because they're so packed full of
Same.
stuff. And I thought, how do you just have shelves? That's crazy. And, a couple of plates, that's it. And then when we got a chance to look in the garage, they had brand new kitchen cabinets up in the garage for some reason. And it wasn't until later, talking to somebody who actually had an inspection done in the house, that we found out the walls that are there couldn't support the weight of the kitchen cabinets.
Woo! Yikes.
We had no clue. We wouldn't have known. But it was something that was just kind of pointed out, like, isn't this weird? And it didn't sit right with us.
Sure.
The realtor didn't know exactly why, because they hadn't been there for that part of the home inspection or that situation. But it was something to them they saw was odd and brought it up to us as being
Sure.
odd. And then it was like, oh, yeah, okay, that makes sense. So, thank you guys for being willing to do that. I'll throw that out there. So that's amazing. Moving on a little bit more into the buying process. So I want to touch a little bit more on something you had said with the escalation thing, where you can say, like you said, like eBay max bid. So that means this is something where if I say 130, but I'll do up to 150 if I need to at such increment. That means then you don't have to keep coming back to me to keep getting approval to go up. You guys can just
It
handle
automatically happens, and then if, say, someone wrote an offer for 151, that's it. You're done.
Right.
And
Now-
there are properties where people pay, like if I were purchasing, it really depends upon what their goal is. Like
Right.
even going back to the knob and tube in a home, if someone interested in that house is an electrician, not a problem for them. Like we're going to point it out, but I can take care of that after I close type of situation. No big deal. Really, yeah, it depends upon your buyer and what they're comfortable with. Sometimes a home, say you're going to plan on being in a home for 5 years before you go elsewhere, you don't want to pay as much as you possibly necessarily can for that house,
Right.
so that you in turn can make some money on it when you sell it in 5 years.
Now, when we talk about how a lot of houses seem to be going for more than their list price, we're seeing that everywhere, and a lot of that because of the constraint in the market. Is that making it harder for some people to get in with financing? Because I think when we
for sure.
financed for us, it was like, okay, here's your maximum finance amount. And if we were looking at a home that was above that, it was, okay, well, then you better have the cash to cover the difference, because we're not going to finance above, obviously, what you're allowed for. But also, if you found a house that is, $20,000 less than what you're financed for, but a bid takes it up to your limit, but it's only worth that $20,000 less, we're only financing to that house value. I mean, how do people contend with that now?
So another thing we do in our buyer consultation is talk about being pre-approved. And there are lenders that, obviously you have to have reasonably good credit scores for that, will give you a proof of funds letter, pretty much saying you're a cash buyer to submit with your offer. Really, under that 300,000 price point, you have to write good, strong offers right now to get accepted.
It's just hard, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Even
heartbreaking
if you do,
sometimes.
yeah. Even if you do write good, strong offers, sometimes it's still not enough.
Or sadly, the financing then has extra requirements to it, like FHA or VA financing. There's you can't have any chipping paint, and you need to have your GFCI outlets installed within 6 feet of a water source. When you're competing against a cash offer, if all terms are the same, likely your seller is going to take the cash offer. You will get some a veteran. I love that. I want to go with that offer.
Right.
I've seen a seller accept a lesser offer because of their honor and respect for the person that served in the military to be able to purchase the house.
You guys really have seen it all out there. How do you guys keep on top of all of this? I'm already getting overwhelmed, and we talk, once a month, and I'm still sitting there going, how do you guys keep up with it?
Sure, and that's back to why it's important to have a buyer's agent or even your listing agent is someone to walk you through that process. I mean, there are a small amount of people that would be well versed in taking care of their own purchase or sale, but yeah, having someone representing you who is a professional in that field, so you don't have to worry about that. They're going to walk you through all the steps and ask you all the questions, so you don't have to have all the knowledge.
I guess it's helpful too if somebody buys a house and then decides they want to sell it and look at something different 5 years later. You guys are still in the market. You guys still know what's going on. You can apprise them of all the things that have changed since then.
And the seller, there's a bunch too, like you said, apprise them of if they're looking to sell and buy at the same time. Yes, a lot of information goes along with that too.
I do want to take a moment to remind everybody that this is a paid program. Views and opinions expressed are that of Klodowski Real Estate, not WBEV or Good Karma Brands. Let's move on to the next topic you had kind of said you wanted to talk about, and it's one I guess I hadn't really thought about, which is foreclosure homes. Is that something that is hitting the market heavily now or something?
No, I wouldn't say heavily. I mean, you see one every now and then, but just kind of noteworthy that if someone has purchased 2+ years ago, property values have gone up in that time. So if someone has fallen on hard times and they are potentially looking at, no pun intended, but foreclosure knocking on their door, yeah, I crack myself up, I know. That to go on the market and go under contract to sell, you could avoid going through the actual hardcore foreclosure process of having that in your credit score, that you could sell and walk away with some, proceeds from your home. Right. Instead of just letting it go back to the bank. Laws have changed over the years. It used to be that is, say you had a $250,000 home and you owed $100,000 left on it, and they foreclosed on you, you were just done and out. Whereas now, if the mortgage company sells it for above their cost and what is owed on it, you are entitled to still get your proceeds back. But yeah, if it's a time frame of, you're more than 50 days out from the sheriff's sale auction for your foreclosure to get on the market and get under contract, and we're happy just to have that conversation. Obviously, that's confidential when someone contacts us and says, okay, things aren't looking good for me right now. Do you want to come take a look at my house and tell me if I can sell it for more than I owe for it to help them out?
Now, on the flip side of that, if a house has gone through the foreclosure, is that then sold generally through realtors like yourself, or is it something that goes, okay?
So I don't know if you get this question commonly. I'll get the question about, you'll go on some of these sites and it'll say pre-foreclosure. Really, the only way to buy a property before it hits the sheriff's sale is if you know the lender, if it's someone you can walk into their establishment and speak to someone that has authority in that neighborhood, not the residential neighborhood, the neighborhood of, right. And say, hey, I see this is in foreclosure. I will offer you X amount of money to purchase it now without going through the sheriff's sale. Otherwise, once it goes through the sheriff's sale, I would say the majority of the time, the mortgage company is getting it back. Then they list with a realtor that will put it on the market just like any other house hits the market.
Now, when I think about how the housing prices have changed, I think about, I got my tax statement, my assessment for my home value, and it's funny because in the time I've been living there, about 7 years now, it seems our home value has nearly doubled.
That
sounds
sounds
great.
about right. Yeah.
Except when it's being assessed for taxes, of course. Are you seeing people using that as a reason to sell, to get out?
Well, not their assessment. So there's an assessment
Right.
that your municipal government is doing on your house. That's irrelevant.
Okay.
We do a market analysis, so that is where we're looking at comparable houses. Comparable meaning similar-ish in square footage, similar number of bedrooms, similar areas. So like, I don't know, would you say? Because I would say like even 2 years ago, the difference of a home in Beaver Dam versus Waupun was kind of drastic, the price anyways.
Right.
And I don't feel like that's so much like the case now.
No. In some municipalities, like City of Beaver Dam, I think pretty much reassesses everyone every year.
Yeah.
Some of the smaller municipalities, like Town of Beaver Dam is a big municipality, but they just did a reassessment two or 3 years ago.
2.
And that was the first one that had been done in like 10 or 11 years. So when you looked at your assessment, it was not anywhere near what a realtor would tell you was the value of your home for sale purposes. Like Town of Westford just redid theirs last year. So you can glance at that, but your assessment is solely what you are taxed on.
Right.
If you have an appraiser come out without being under contract to sell, they're going to give you a little closer number to what you would expect to sell your home for.
Now, is there such thing as maybe like, I guess like emotional pricing where somebody might be like, oh, well, you say my house will sell for 200, but I feel like we could get 275.
Oh yeah. That definitely happens. And just like buyers and sellers interview us to see if we're a fit to be their listing agent or their buyer's agent, same kind of goes for us. If we meet with someone and you say your house is worth $300,000 and they want to go on the market at $425, we're likely going to say, we're sorry, we're not a fit for you. Like, yeah, to list with someone else in that case.
Yeah.
Now, do you guys ever, well, let me show you what else is in your area. Let's talk about that market analysis.
Oh, sure. We
explain
absolutely
it.
do.
With
Yes.
everyone,
Yes.
everyone we do that. But yeah, especially in that situation, I think we'd even probably go a little further to like, this is what this sold for. This is everything this house had. This is square footage, all those things. So they get a real picture of where we get that number from, because we don't just make it up.
That makes sense. Now, I want to touch on this again because this is really kind of an important factor for you guys, and that is the locality that you guys have. Being here in the area, you guys know the market, the vendors in the market. We've talked about this before. If I need somebody to come out and do landscaping, you guys have a phone number, I'm sure.
We do.
If I need somebody to come out and do electrical, plumbing, whatever, I'm trying to get my house ready for whatever purpose, selling, all that fun stuff, you guys probably have a phone number for somebody. How does that affect like your region, I guess would be my question. Like, do you guys have a extent that you're willing to go for selling, or that you say, okay, now I don't feel like I'm local enough to sell a home in this area?
Oh, for sure. I'm working with a couple right now that live in Dane, and they want to come to the Beaver Dam-ish area, and they asked if I would list their house. And I am not familiar with Dane, so I referred them to an agent in that area. I'm grateful and love to be working with them here. All of Dutch County, like Horicon, Juneau, Reeseville, Lowell, Clyman, Columbus, Randolph, maybe a little bit beyond that, Waupun, the kind of a circle around, because when we meet, even like with a seller, or we're meeting with a buyer that's looking at a house saying you think this is priced well, we have likely been in the comparable properties that we're showing you on a sheet. So we can tell you, like, okay, the pictures on this one look super cute, but the basement wall was leaning in. that we have additional insight to that. Or, I mean, sometimes the pictures look stellar and you get in there and the floors are sloping, or, the flooring is gapping, or there's caulk trying to fill in holes.
Or we know last time it was listed what it looked like, or that there was mold.
Yes,
And,
yes.
Yeah.
So those are things too, like,
Then you know what questions to ask.
yes, that when
Yeah.
we're showing a house to a buyer that's come back on the market, that the last time it was on the market, there was a lot of mold in the basement and they had water, and now it's all this nice white finish with a paint smell down there. That's an adverse fact that we say to a buyer, like, 2 years ago, there was a lot of mold in this home. I don't know how they've rectified it. We can ask and see if, what's happened there. But if I had a realtor that was selling me a house and I was moving into a house, especially with children, I'd want to know if mold had been all over the place.
Yeah.
Right. That definitely makes sense. Are we still seeing houses being flipped in the same capacity as they used to be, where people are just, buying those rundown whatever and turning it around in 6 months and selling it big?
Sure, there's some of those, and you kind of also get to know when you look up who the owner of the property is, the quality of their work. And like there are some flippers that do an excellent job. Like take it down to the studs, rewire, re-insulate, all of those things. And then there are some that, I apologize for the phrase, but a little lipstick on the pig kind of thing.
It's amazing what you think you can learn from 5-minute crafts and YouTube, right?
Yeah.
So we have a little bit of time left in the show, and I kind of want to open this up for you guys to talk about if there's any trends you're seeing in the future as far as home availability. Now that we're hitting the warmer months, or should we hopefully expect to see more people looking to sell, since people like to move when it's warm and not when it's cold? Is there anything else we should be seeing on the forecast that should make us feel a little bit better about the market? Anything else you feel like you want to share?
I feel like this time of year kind of picks up the market. Like you hit the warmer weather, moving wise easier. Like obviously in this summer one, with if kids are transitioning from different, like relocating for schools, the interest rates do hold that back, because if say you're in a nice 3-bedroom, 1-bath, 1-car garage house that you like, but you have 3 kids and they're sharing a bedroom and you'd like another bathroom, to transition up to the next phase, a little bigger house, and you're currently at a 2.9 interest rate, to go to 7 plus, that's a huge deal. So they're going to make it work a lot of times in that house first.
Yeah. And everyone, it wasn't even just people that bought during that 2 to 3% interest rate. It was so many people refinanced. So many people are at that like 2 to 3%, which 2 to 3% to 7% changes a payment wildly. So many people, I think the average prior to now was people move like every 6 years. That's the standard anyways that the National Association of Realtors shares. And I'd be interested to see, like, once we're far enough out from this, the data on that, to know how often people are moving now. Because not only now are you going to a 7% interest rate, if you're financing, you're also, the values of homes are very high.
Right.
So it's rough.
Yeah,
it's rough for buyers.
Give you a shocking world. I know for us it was a no-brainer, because the interest rate was low enough that the house payment, even if the house payment went up with tax assessments changing, all the other stuff, was still coming in at hundreds of dollars less than what we were paying for rent, to rent something large enough for a family of 5. I'm starting to feel like those numbers have kind of flip-flopped a little bit now, where it's not necessarily cheaper to own.
It's also not cheap to rent. So
That's true. That's true. That's true.
I do want to note,
Yeah,
with our buyer consultation in reference to that, talking about lenders, we're happy to give names of lenders as well to work with, but there are some lenders out there currently with the higher interest rates that if you finance with them with your purchase, they have time frames that if interest rates drop a certain percentage of a point, you can refinance for free. They do not charge you a refinance or a reappraisal fee. It's and I want to say it goes out for a few years. Like if it drops more than X amount in a 6-month period, you can refi for free. And then say it drops again the next 6 months, you can refi again, which is a really, really nice touch.
I mean, yet again, another great benefit of you guys being local, because you guys have those names of lenders. You have that information. You know what banks and groups to work with, which is absolutely amazing. Now, I noticed there's only 2 of you here today. I'm guessing somebody's out showing a house, looking at houses.
Adam had a listing interview appointment this morning.
Okay. So something potentially new then hitting the market? Is that what
Yeah,
we're thinking?
potentially, yes.
Okay. I mean, you heard it here first, folks. Wonderful. We did talk a little bit about, you guys said that you just added a new one, new listing. You said Friday, was it? Or Thursday?
Nope,
Sunday.
Sunday night, 9:30
Sunday.
p.m.
Well, also Friday,
Right.
and Thursday, because that was one
yeah.
on Center Street.
They're all under contract.
Yeah, they're all under contract.
Now, when you guys list these, they can be found, again, on your website,
Yep.
and they can be found on your Facebook page as well.
Yep.
How quickly are you guys able to get stuff up there? Like, if you look at a house, we'll say he's looking at one this morning. If all goes well, is this something that could be on your website tomorrow? Or is it like 5-6 days down the road?
It could be on our website tomorrow. Like, we have the capability of that, but in the seller's best interest, we prefer not to do that, because we like to get all of our ducks in the row, get all the assessor's information, line up the professional photographer to come out to take photos that are going to represent your house in the best light possible. Yeah, if someone called today and said, I want to be on the market tonight, we could make that happen. But it's usually in their best interest to give us those few days to get the photographer out here. And
I think it's great you guys get a photographer out there. Somebody who went to school for photography, that makes me very happy. As much as I'd love to think that nowadays we all are because of our cell phones, but it is nice that you get somebody out there who can really show everything and they really get all the details, which is
yes,
and everyone's
it's
seen
huge.
that. It is a huge deal, because everyone is looking at that house, at those pictures before they come to that house. And sometimes those pictures are a factor of whether they are coming to see that house or not.
Yeah, it's just shy of 100% of people start their shopping online. I mean, we
Right.
still have the population that'll drive by and see a sign and call. But yeah, and if your photos aren't great, you're probably not going to get stellar traffic. Whereas if you have good photos, that's going to get how many more people through your home to potentially have competing offers for you to sell on your best terms or best price or both.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to assume here that from a seller's standpoint, if you guys are representing me, if there's something in my home that you know is going to be a really popular feature, you guys are probably going to tell the photographer, like, get some really good shots.
Oh, yeah.
And make sure that's a focal point.
Yeah.
Yep.
Depending upon the property, like if you're on the lake or you're rural, we're likely going to do drone photos with that as well.
Oh, wow.
So you can get an overview of the neighborhood. Definitely on the water, for sure, drone photos.
Yeah.
We also, if someone is passionate about like that 3D Matterport thing where you can walk through a house by clicking through, he does that as well. He offers all of the options.
Wow, the technology behind that is great. I know I
Right.
took virtual tours of probably 8 houses before we ever went and looked at one. So that was for me. The wife didn't like doing it. She's like, let's just go see it at some point. And nothing to take away from, the virtual side of things, but it is a different experience to walk through a home. You get to
Oh, yeah.
feel, smell, the
Yeah,
sounds.
that's important. The smelling is important.
It definitely is. I know, like, our home's an older home, so going up the stairs, I was like, okay, stairs creak a little.
Sure.
Like, I know how to tighten that up, so that's something I can do. You walk across some carpeting, and you go, all right, this carpeting probably needs to be replaced. Things like that. You might not notice that in a photo. So,
And like the couple I mentioned from Dane, start online when they see something or that we send to them. But to avoid a drive out, we usually start with a literal like virtual FaceTime or Zoom tour. I'll go to the house and do it with them, point the things out that I see that might be an adverse fact. And then if it's something they're interested in, they schedule, usually during their lunch break during the day, and then they schedule in the evening to come back and take an in-person tour. And if it's not something that's a fit, then they haven't wasted that 2-hour turnaround time to drive out and take a look.
Gas is expensive, so
And they have 2 small kids, so yeah.
There you go. Makes sense. So with our last about 3-4 minutes here, is there anything else you guys want to share with your viewers now and your listeners? Any other information? Remind everybody again how they can get a hold of you.
Sure.
Remind people again, the areas you guys work in. Give them all the info.
We are just super passionate about doing what's right for our clients. And if that, we're happy to sit down and even answer questions. So say someone is looking to sell or even buy a year out. We are happy to sit down and chat with you, or if you don't know you want to buy and you want to talk about it, like how does that work? What does that look like? We are happy to just answer questions because we want everybody to be equipped with the best information they can have to make their best decision. We will never push you into anything.
Yep.
Because we care about you. They can call our office at 920-219-9212. We have the Facebook page, Klodowski Real Estate. We have our website, klodowskirealestate.com. And if you don't remember the name, you can just Google and you'll find us there too. We like to assist in helping people come up with achieving their goals for either selling or buying on their best terms possible.
And one final question that just popped into my head, and I don't know how I didn't think to ask this before, but do you guys only work with residential, or do you guys sometimes dabble in like commercial real estate, or is that outside your realm of?
Depending upon, if you had like a warehouse that needed like soil testing and things like that for chemicals, we're probably going to refer you to somebody else. We do some commercial. Abby just had a recent great commercial closing, vacant land. We do a lot of that also. But yeah, we try and keep it to what we know. We want to just try and make a sale to make a sale. Like we want someone who's going to represent you the best possible.
I don't know why my brain was going to those instances where it's, small town bar where you live behind the bar or above the bar.
So that I don't think would be out of our wheelhouse
we
there.
could do
That
that.
would be comfortable, yeah.
It'd be a great place to meet up, I'm sure, for that initial consultation.
We'll come to you. You don't need to come to us.
Absolutely. Well, I again want to thank you guys for taking the time to come on down, be on the show, for being willing to be on video. I know it's always a rough and scary thing. I want to thank you guys, of course, for all the information you share. I want to remind everybody, again, some key points to keep in mind. One, we talked about buyer's agency. That's super duper important. I mean, I'm obviously not in the real estate world, but I feel like it almost feels like a no-brainer. Like you should definitely go that route. Sure. I love the fact that you guys are just a fount of knowledge for everything that is in the area, which is amazing. So thank you guys for that as well. And I look forward to keeping my eyes on some of these new listings and see when this new one pops up. Because, if he's willing to miss being on video to go look at it, it must be pretty nice.
We appreciate you and your great questions as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And I appreciate you guys not just laughing at all my questions because of how dumb they sometimes
There
are.
are no
There
dumb
are
questions.
no dumb questions. No dumb questions.
I appreciate that. And, of course, if anybody out there has dumb questions, again, feel free to reach out. Again, fountain of knowledge over here, so we definitely appreciate that. Thank you guys for coming in today. This has been Taking Care of Business with Klodowski Real Estate. I want to remind everybody that this is a paid program. Views and opinions expressed during the program are that of Klodowski Real Estate, not necessarily WBEV or Good Karma Brands.
When the time